Here's my question for you. How would you describe Canada's physical and human geography? Well, to answer this question, we have to dive deeper into Canada's geography, and I've created a mind map just for that. This is my mind map, and I've separated it into 4 parts. Number 1, Canada's physical geography. Number 2, managing our resources. Next, number 3, Canada's human geography. Lastly, number 4, sustainable communities. First off, we'll be starting at Unit 1, Canada's physical geography. And these are the 4 things that I talked about in this unit. First, I talked about the landform regions, which include all the 7 landform regions. Next, I talked about the rock cycle, then glaciation, then weather and climate. We are going to glaciation. So, glaciation is the process of ice advancing and covering large areas of land that forms the land to be more rounded. There are many impacts of glaciation, such as erosional effects and depositional effects that form the land in different ways. However, we are going to be talking about the issue of glaciation. So, climate change is melting glaciers faster than ever before, raising sea levels. And this leads to many problems. If glaciers disappear, the area becomes very dry, especially during the summers. There's less freshwater access as the glaciers melt away, because the fresh water is all stored in the glaciers. However, when they're all melting away like this, they mix with the salty seawater. Also, there will be increased water shortages. Provinces will have arguments over the shared water sources after they lose water from the glaciers melting. Economically, this is not good for our agriculture as there's less water for us to use, and hydroelectric power will decline. So many fish won't be able to live anymore, and they'll have to change their locations due to the changing water levels, like the sea levels or the salt levels of the water. And culturally, there will be the loss of many sacred sites for the indigenous. Now, moving on to the rock cycle. This is a diagram of the rock cycle, and it shows how 5 different types of rocks transform into each other over time through natural geological processes. First off, we have igneous rocks. They form when magma or lava cools. We are familiar with this process in films about spectacular volcanic eruptions, but most cooling happens out of sight, either at the bottom of the ocean or inside Earth's crust. You can tell where an igneous rock cooled by the structure of its crystals. Next, we'll be talking about weathering, erosion, and deposition. They're all related processes that break down all types of rocks into smaller particles. Then, move the particles to a different location. Weather, the breaking down of rocks. Erosion is the moving of broken up pieces of rocks. Deposition is the building up of eroded materials in a new location. C. Sedimentary rocks. They're created after millions of years of compaction and cementation of loose sediments. Compaction occurs as loose sediments become tightly compact from drying or the weight of more layers of sediments on top. Eventually, the sediments will become cemented together by minerals deposited between them. Metamorphic rocks are changed versions of igneous, sedimentary, and other metamorphic rocks. These changes occur when the rocks are exposed to great amounts of heat and pressure, such as when molten rock intrudes into existing rock layers. For example, metamorphic versions of sedimentary rock are much harder and tougher than the original. Now that we've discussed the rock cycle, well, where do we first even get rocks? From mining. That leads us to our second unit, managing our resources. There are 4 things in this second unit. I've talked about resources and types of resources, industries, mining, different types of mining and minerals, and trading like tariffs, imports, and exports. However, we are going to talk about industries. So, what type of industries are there? So, there's only four: primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Primary is acquiring or obtaining of raw materials, for example, finding oil, mining for iron, farming crops, or fishing. Secondary industries are taking the raw materials from the primary industry to make it into something else in factories. For example, using wood to make buildings, iron for cars, or milk for cheese. Tertiary industry is also known as the service industry. Usually, no materials or assembly is used here. Instead, time and experience are the main commodities. For example, we have a movie theater, restaurants, aquariums, banks, or taxis. Lastly, we have the quaternary industries. These are high-tech jobs that require high skill. For example, we have programming, working at NASA, and research and development jobs. Moving back, I'd like to talk about two types of jobs. There's number one, basic job, and non-basic job. A basic job is a job that brings in money into the economy from somewhere else. For example, we have miners that they get minerals and they earn money from that. And there's also farmers and car production manufacturers. On the other hand, we have non-basic jobs. These are jobs that circulate money within the economy. For example, we have grocery store workers. They support the community and they don't bring extra resources from outside. And there's also doctors and teachers. All these jobs need a good population to continue to support and help a country thrive, which leads us to our third unit, human geography. This unit is split into four categories. First of all, we have population demographics, immigration, population pyramids, and the baby boom. I will be talking about population pyramids. So, if you don't know, population pyramids, also known as the age-sex pyramid, is a graphical representation that displays the age and sex distribution of a population. There are three stages of a population pyramid. First is expansive. Here, there's rapid growth. As you can see, there's a wide base, which means high birth rate. And at the top, there's very low life expectancy. And these represent developing countries such as Algeria, Kenya, and Afghanistan. Secondly, we have stationary. This represents slow growth. It has a narrow base with high life expectancy and low dependency load, for example, the US or Austria. Now we have declining. Now you can see there's a spike over here, so this means there's a decline in births, and many countries of the former Soviet Union are example of this. For example, Japan, Germany, and South Korea. South Korea is following a major crisis right now, a major population decline. This is its population pyramid as of right now in 2025, and right next to it in 2060. Their population will decrease by over 10 million in 35 years. The fertility rate of South Korea is 0.72, while the replacement rate is 2.1. The replacement rate is how many children a woman needs to give birth to for a country to maintain its population without immigration. This leads to many problems in South Korea. There will be an economic collapse as there will be only one worker to support one elderly person who is not working. And this is very hard as they'll be under a lot of stress. By 2060, half of the Korean aged 70 and up will have no siblings, and 30 will have no children. Also, young adults between age of 25 to 35 will only make up 5% of the population and would most likely have no siblings. This leads to elderly having no family, and young adults will have little family and few friends. This leads us to a loneliness epidemic. Coming back, we have Cultural collapse. So basically, adults ages 25 to 45 decreased from 37% of the population in 2000 to 16% by 2060. And all the people these ages is what grew the culture of Korea, like K-pop, K-drama, and many other trends. The government will also get a lot less tax from the workers, which will make it much harder to provide for seniors. And most services go out and get abandoned. So how can we have a sustainable community? Which leads us to our fourth unit. Sustainable communities. In this unit, we talk about urban land use, urban hierarchy. We talk about smart growth principles and combating urban sprawl. I will be talking about urban hierarchy. This is the urban hierarchy chart. The Census Metropolitan Area, or the CMA, is the area with greater than 100,000 people, and it goes down to Hamlet, which is an area with fewer than 200 people. As it goes down, the population is decreasing and there's less services. So these are the order of goods and services. Low order goods or services is a service that you'd go to maybe multiple times a week, like convenience stores or grocery stores like Walmart. Middle order goods or services is a service that you go once in a while, and for example, hair salons and family doctors. And high order goods or services is a service that you really have to go to. For example, hospital, car dealerships, and airports. From low to high, low order goods and services can be more common in a city or town or area, as many people would go there weekly, so you would not need a great population to sustain a business like this. For middle order goods or services, you need a higher population to sustain it, as less people go there as often. And high order goods or services would only be found in cities or CMAs, where there are a lot of people to help sustain the business. So after looking at all of these units, how will we answer the big question? Describe Canada's physical and human geography. Well, this is how I would answer it. Canada is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, with many forests, mountains, rivers, and lakes, and 7 unique landform regions, including the Canadian Shield, which has rocks from the pre-Cambrian era. The country's climate ranges from extreme colds in the north to a bit more moderate in the south, experiencing long, harsh winters and short, warm summers. Canada is rich in many natural resources such as timber, freshwater, oil, and maple syrup, which support our biggest primary industries. We are a very well-developed and advanced country with high living standards, free healthcare, and strong infrastructure. Our population is almost 40.1 million. Some major cities include Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. Canada is also very diverse. We are shaped by the indigenous people and have lots of immigrants from Europe, Asia, and Africa, and all around the world to make up for our low birth rate. I believe that all these factors show how great and amazing Canada's physical and human geography is. Thank you for watching.